This is your Stimulus News Live. Please subscribe for more. Bipartisan lawmakers unveiled a coronavirus stimulus package Tuesday after months of congressional inaction on curbing the economic damage from the outbreak. The roughly $908 billion proposal includes $288 billion in small business aid such as Paycheck Protection Program loans, $160 billion in state and local government relief, and $180 billion to fund a $300 per week supplemental unemployment benefit through March, according to a draft framework. Watch the CNBC report on the matter.
So why wouldn't a bipartisan proposal that could potentially also pass in that body be a better way to go?
Yeah, we just don't have time to waste time. We have a couple of weeks left here. Obviously, it does require bipartisan support to get out of the Congress, but it requires a presidential signature. And this government is in place for sure for the next month. And I think the place to start is, are we actually making a law, or are we just making a point? And I think the way you make a law for sure is you've got a presidential signature. So we'll see how it goes forward. I think the one thing we all agree on, as I said, waiting till next year is not an answer. We need a targeted relief bill, including things that we can agree on.
The stimulus would put $16 billion into vaccine distribution, testing, and contact tracing, funnel $82 billion into education, put $45 billion into transportation, and allocate funds for rental assistance, child care, and broadband. The proposal would not include another direct payment to most Americans. It also would offer temporary federal protection from coronavirus-related lawsuits, a provision Democrats have opposed while states determine their own laws. Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, a member of the congressional group that has discussed a new relief plan, earlier called it an interim package to provide support until President-elect Joe Biden takes office in January. If there's one thing I'm hearing uniformly, it's, Congress, do not leave town for the holidays, leaving the country and the economy adrift with all these initial CARES Act programs running out. It is unclear whether congressional leaders will embrace the proposal or if it will lead to a breakthrough before the end of the year, when many programs expire. Democrats have opposed liability protections and pushed for a $600 per week supplemental jobless benefit, while the GOP has pushed against new state and local aid. Senator Joe Manchin, DW.V., who worked on the proposal, said the group had no assurances from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, D. California, or Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RKY, that they would vote on the plan. U.S. Senator Mitt Romney, RUT, speaks as bipartisan members of the Senate and House gather to announce a framework for fresh coronavirus disease, COVID-19, relief legislation at a news conference on Capitol Hill in Washington, U.S., December 1, 2020. U.S. Senator Mitt Romney, RUT, speaks as bipartisan members of the Senate and House gather to announce a framework for fresh coronavirus disease, COVID-19, relief legislation at a news conference on Capitol Hill in Washington, U.S., December 1, 2020. Kevin Lee Mark Reuters still, it underscored the rumbling among rank-and-file lawmakers to pass more aid even as party leaders fail to break a months-long impasse. It is absolutely essential that we pass emergency relief, said Senator Susan Collins, a Maine Republican who worked on the plan, at a news conference announcing the proposal. The pandemic has rampaged through the country, straining hospitals and forcing state and local officials to implement new business restrictions to slow infections. At the same time, lifelines put in place by Congress earlier this year will expire at the end of the year, hitting Americans already struggling to cover costs. The programs lapsing at the end of December include an unemployment insurance extension, a federal student loan payment moratorium, and eviction protections. Pelosi and McConnell have not yielded ground from their respective $2.2 trillion and $500 billion aid bills. Leaders of the Democratic-held House and GOP-controlled Senate have not held formal talks on stimulus since the 2020 election on November 3. Talks between the Trump administration and Democrats collapsed before the election. On Tuesday, Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin plan to speak for the first time since late October. Mnuchin told reporters that the pair will focus on a spending bill Congress needs to pass before December 11th to avoid a government shutdown. They plan to mention coronavirus relief, he said. Mnuchin later said during congressional testimony that he spoke with McConnell, President Donald Trump, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, R. California, and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and they agreed that Congress should craft a targeted fiscal response. The Treasury Secretary said he wants to focus on what we can pass quickly on a bipartisan basis to get the most difficult parts of the economy, relief. During the stalemate, members of both parties have urged compromise to ease some of the pressure on the economy and health care system. On top of the economic programs, the federal government will likely need to approve funds to streamline distribution of COVID-19 vaccines in the coming months. Senators who have joined in the discussions about the aid proposal include Warner, Collins, Manchin, Senator Lisa Murkowski, R. Alaska, Senator Mitt Romney, R. Utah, Senator Maggie Hassan, DN.H., and Senator Bill Cassidy, R. La House members including Democratic Representative Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey and Republican Representative Tom Reed of New York, leaders of the Problem Solvers Caucus, were also involved. U.S. Senator Angus King, IME, holds a chart as bipartisan members of the Senate and House gather to announce a framework for fresh coronavirus disease, COVID-19, relief legislation at a news conference on Capitol Hill in Washington, U.S., December 1st. 202 U.S. Senator Angus King, IME, holds a chart as bipartisan members of the Senate and House gather to announce a framework for fresh coronavirus disease, COVID-19, relief legislation at a news conference on Capitol Hill in Washington, U.S. December 1st, 2020. Kevin Lee. Mark Reuters. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has also repeatedly called on Congress to send more fiscal relief to boost the economy. Asked about the aid proposal during congressional testimony Tuesday, he said it seemed the plan targets a lot of the areas that could definitely benefit from help and will be experiencing a challenging winter. If the unemployment programs expire at the end of the year, about 12 million Americans could lose benefits. The two policies allow people to receive insurance for longer than they normally would and make freelance workers, contractors, and others who normally would not qualify for benefits eligible to receive them. Warner led a letter from about 30 Democratic senators to the chamber's leadership on Tuesday calling to extend both policies. They wrote that the loss of benefits around Christmas would be particularly cruel, especially as the outbreak is expected to worsen in the winter months. Some lawmakers could push to tie coronavirus aid provisions to a spending bill.